And we are going. What's going on with everybody? It is your boy Eric, aka Young God, coming to you live in the Green Dungeon, giving it to you real raw rugged. And as was made note off camera, this is a little early for me today. Sometimes I wake up this time, sometimes I don't. It's one of those days where I was not waking up at 10 in the morning. But I said, you know what? I really want to do this interview, so I got up for this, and I'm proud I got up for this because I really did want to talk to this person on the other line, so I will let him introduce himself, man. Who do we have for your day?
Yeah, so I'm Professor Skye. Nice to meet you virtually. I'm in my sort of green, not quite a dungeon. I'm on my back porch because I got like a 2 year old and a 6 week old in there, and they're making all sorts of noise. So that's why I started moving everything outside. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here, and I like watching your stuff, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
I do appreciate that. You do look like you're in a green dungeon technically because of all the green behind you. It looks so beautiful that it looks green screen almost like that. It doesn't even look real.
Yeah, no, it's real. You'll hear the birds the whole way through. Like I do my my videos in the morning. Sometimes I'll get like these birds yelling at each other on the side. I'm just like, would you shut up? But what are you gonna do?
No, I know after you've had your baby, which congratulations by the way.
No, thank you.
You've been doing a lot of videos outside. Has there been a I don't know difference of anything that you've moved your videos outside from being inside?
I think it's allowed me to be a little bit more like relaxed because you know because you have your videos where you're in your closet. I don't know exactly what that space is where you do your reviews, but like at least when I started, I really wanted everything to be super controlled because I was just like so afraid of the noise being bad. But people like really don't care. Like if there's bad audio because of a bad microphone, people care. But if there's bad audio because like there's a bird or whatever, people don't care. So yeah, I think it's allowed me to be a little bit less like obsessed with controlling my recording space.
I will let you know that is a. I'm sitting on the toilet that entire time. You're
Oh,
watching me.
beautiful.
That is a bathroom. I am sitting on the toilet when you see me in that pink room. Um, but that is interesting that you say that. That like if it's like natural nature sounds, people don't really care. I never really thought about that. But you won't hear people like man, like wish those grasshoppers would just shut up in this video. Like
Yeah.
nobody ever said that's super interesting. But if it's like in a house and like there's people talking in the background, you will hear
Yep.
people be like, man, can you go to another room? So you
Yep.
that is an interesting point that people don't complain about the nature. Super duper interesting stuff. Um, but yes, I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go with this, but I'll start at the very top of like how I discovered you,
Cool.
or maybe I do not know how I discovered you because I see like you're everywhere. So I can't I don't know if I could pinpoint an exact place where I discovered you, but I can
Right.
tell you why I did not watch you at first,
Yes.
which is because something you're like the antithesis of. I seen you do like an hour long video. I seen you doing hour long videos and things, and in my head, I was like, "It's like professors, a white guy. This is about to be super pretentious. I don't want to hear like this guy break down stuff that really doesn't need to be broken down. Just like this is going to be too pretentious." And then one day I was like, you know what? Let me give him a try. And one of the first videos I heard of you, you were talking about how much you hate pretentiousness in hip hop and how people do like the whole. I really don't listen to rap, but I listen to which was the Matt Villainy video. So I was like, you know what? I was being prejudiced, man. I was
Fair.
discriminating towards this man because of the way he looked, his profession. I just don't want to hear it. So I just want to say I apologize for that. But it was so interesting and crazy to think one thing about you, and literally that first video, you bring that thing up and say, "I hate those type of people." That was crazy to me. That was crazy to me.
Well, I mean, it's tricky, and on YouTube, like you have to brand yourself. So, like, my initial branding was just all screwed up. I was just like talking about how I went to the gym all the time. That's how I started. Who cares about that? So, like, when I decided to lean into the professor thing, I totally knew that would be a consequence because I'm like super white. I'm not just I'm just like blinding the screen. And so instead of trying to like I don't know like wear a hat sideways and pretend like I'm not, I just figured I'd lean into it and then just hope like what you experience is my exact hope that people see it and they think I'm going to come on there and just say like ever since Jay Dilla died, there's been no good rap music. Just the kind of thing you sort of expect. When in reality, like I mean, at some point we'll talk. I really want your help someday to tell me, like what is the Jacksonville album? Who are the Jacksonville artists? Because I'm positive there's got to be great stuff coming out of there, and I don't. It's not going to sound like something I would have wanted to hear 10 years ago, but that just meant that I was wrong 10 years ago. So I'm like, yeah, it's funny because I'm simultaneously the most pretentious person on YouTube, but I'm also the most anti-pretentious person because, like, so it's I don't blame anybody for not clicking on my face saying this is what rap is about.
That's super funny. And when I thought I was like, when I say to him, I need to like show him like a sign of solidarity, and I forgot it. My blanket's in the back. The screensaver isn't that anymore. But even though I am from Jacksonville, I grew up, and to this day, Tom Brady guy, Patriots guy,
Okay.
Patriots guy. So I was like, I know you're a Boston dude or whatnot. So
Yep.
yeah, did grow up Patriots guy. So hey, which is funny because people looked at me as pretentious because they're like, you're from Jacksonville. How are you not Jaguars fan? You like Tom Brady? You
Right.
don't understand the hate that I got in school for
Oh, I
being a
believe it.
Tom. I had a Tom Brady profile picture. I have Tom Brady screensaver on my phone. They're like, why do you have it? It's not. It wasn't even like a football picture. It was like him as a Kentucky Derby. They're like, you're weird. Why do you have this guy on your phone? So yeah, I got the pretentious rumors as well. So
But
I know it.
that's especially funny because, like, if you do a word association, Jacksonville, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is Bortles. Like, that's the first thing I think. It's it's because of the good place or whatever. But still, just the first thing I say is Bortles. So that's a funny inverse. But yeah, I'm like, Brady's interesting because we're the same age. Tom Brady, Kanye West, and we're all the same age. So, like, there was this period of time where I was like, man, these guys are not getting old. Maybe I'm not getting old. Is there some kind of magic happening here? And then, of course, he retired, and we all know what happened with Ye. So, anyways, we'll see what happens with me.
It's interesting because I was like in 10th grade during the Bortles era.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just going to school, just like antagonizing people, like, Blake Bortles sucks. He's no prime Tom Brady. But yeah, it's interesting. I think you talked about this in the Sam Buck interview
Mm-hmm.
about Tom Brady and like his just focus on flexibility and being
Yeah.
flexible and how you kind of use that in your just everyday music range and being flexible with the way that you listen to music was when you did that, was that a just a coincidence where you're like, yeah, Tom Brady's that as well, or did you put that in mind when trying to be flexible?
It probably was in my mind because, I mean, like, I probably wouldn't want to hang out and talk with Tom Brady. He's probably a jerk and not a fun person to talk to, but he is a very good example of, like, having an idea and seeing that idea through. And so, I do listen to a lot of sports radio and stuff. So, like, or at least I used to. And, like, the way he talks about flexibility, it just kind of made sense because, like, I've never been that strong of a guy and I can't deadlift or whatever. But, like, as long as you can be flexible, then, like, you can pick up your kid or you can figure out a way to not wake up with your back hurting. And that was what I realized was I was like mentally my back was hurting, like,
Yeah.
when I turned 40. Like, I listened to stuff and it confused me and it made me mad and it made me say kids these days. And so, yeah, so I just sort of trained myself with that flexibility. Sorry for that airplane. We're talking about some audio here.
Nobody's going to complain about that, though. That's
That's
the
true.
fun. Now, if somebody came out yelling at you, they'd be like, "What is that noise?" But a loud airplane, nobody's going to care. It's funny. I feel like I'll make you laugh with this. I'll tell you two things that won me over with Tom Brady, as in me thinking like, he actually might be a cool guy outside the football field. I've
Okay.
never really heard like a teammate of his say anything bad about him in a sense where like, yeah, this guy's a jerk, he's a diva. I've always heard
Yeah.
like people just praise him. It's the second thing for me as a Florida guy. Never
Okay.
forget this. This is like 2016, one of the years we won a Super Bowl. There's a video comes out of practice where Kodak Black is playing,
Okay.
and Kodak Black does a dance called Kodak Bop.
Mm-hmm.
Tom start Kodak bopping.
Wow. Yeah, that's one level deeper than you think. That's not just like I'm friends with LeBron and LeBron told me the song's cool. That's like, yeah, that's pretty wild.
That threw me. I was like, in the I think the caption was like, Tommy Kodak bopping. I was like, it's not Kodak bopping. And the Kodak song was playing, and he did the Kodak, and like Kodak like does this thing where he like shows his girls off. He did that too, and I was like, is this life? What is happening right now? Which is I feel like it all ties together because I've heard you talk about Kodak and whatnot. Which I will get into later as a Florida guy, because I would love to tell you about how Kodak is seen in the state of Florida,
Yeah,
because
I'm
it
curious.
is very interesting. But going back again, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I start
Yeah.
watching your videos, and I'm like, okay, I was wrong. I start watching more of your videos, and it's so interesting to me because you do talk about hip hop and just music in general from a much different lens that anybody else on YouTube does it, because you do talk about it from an intellectual, scholastic standpoint. And even the one, my comedy video, I think it might have been the Pray for Haiti, you had like a slideshow. And I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, that made me mad because I was like, I should have done that. I was like, that's such a good idea to do like a quick little cool slideshow. I was like, that's a great idea. So stuff like that, I'm like, okay, you're doing things in an original, very cool way. You're a professor. I'm a student. Literally, I'm
Right.
in college. I'm a college student. So the first thing I had to do before this interview, as every college student should do when they're about to meet their professor for the first time,
Yeah.
I go to ratemyprofessor.com. I had to. I
Oh
was
boy.
like, I feel like every college student has to do that. And
Of course.
you have really good reviews on there. Literally, the only thing that people complain about is, hey, this guy's going to give you a lot of homework. This guy's
Yeah.
going to give you a
That's
lot of homework, which I'm not surprised, because you have so many like ideas in your head and so many things in your head that I do feel like you want to put that out to the students and have them relay that back to you. I don't know if that's just something that
yeah.
you've been doing your entire life, but you have a lot of ideas in your head.
Yeah, I mean that's what I tell my students. Like I give you a lot of work, but I say I'm a really easy grader. I'm actually a very lazy grader. So like I'm just you handed something in, you got a 20 out of 20. Let's go, you know. But like in general, like the main thing I try to fight against, and that's what's tricky about being on YouTube, is that it's a passive way of learning. So you know I spend 99% of my time watching anything is on YouTube, right? So like that's my favorite place to watch anything. But like it's still passive. So that's what's the older I get, the more I start teaching students who have learned so much on YouTube, the more homework I give them. Because it's like you got to be able to say back to me, okay, what was the name of the person I just mentioned? And then you know, because you don't do that on YouTube, and then just kind of slips through, and then you're like, I saw this great video, and this guy said this thing, and it was great. And then like that's all they get. So yeah, no, I am trying to like get out a lot of thoughts, and it's one of the weird things because as an academic, like in theory, my job is supposed to be writing articles and getting them published, and I was doing that, but like no one reads them, no one cares, no one really cares about what I do for my job as a French professor. So YouTube's been great because I have all these ideas and I actually have an audience like for the first time. So
Which, I mean, just so many things run through my head, because as a person who is currently in their master's program, you don't
right,
understand how, or you do probably understand because you went
yeah,
through it too, but like, boy, the amount of like academic journals I have to cite, and I
yeah,
have to, boy, it's a lot, you know. So shout out to you professors for working me, because boy, oh boy, it is a lot. And I feel like similar where, do going through your master's and your doctorate program, do you
mm-hmm.
feel like you had more work then versus teaching, or teaching you have more work than you had going through school?
So the real trick about being a college professor is that you're not actually trained for what you end up doing a lot of. So like teaching is great and I can teach and I have no problem with that. Research is great, but there's this whole other stuff like assessment, rubric building, joint committee meetings and stuff like that. So like the life of the mind during grad school was just amazing. I mean, I hope you're experiencing this in grad school where it's like you're just surrounded by people who really care about the thing you care about, and like no one's afraid of being a nerd because like you're all nerds and you're all just like we're doing this all together, you know, like you're building that real sense of excellence. So I'd say like grad school was the most amount of like thinking and putting things together and challenging thoughts, whereas you know being a professor is more just like work because
Mm.
you like you have to get up and go to a meeting of a committee and you don't even know what the committee is, and then you're there for an hour and a half and then you leave and you still don't even know what the damn acronym is. Like you went to the JLDJ and you're like, okay, great, and then you leave. So yeah, so if you ever see a bitter professor, it's really not because of you. It's because of like there's like 3 layers of administration above them who are telling them to do something.
I'm curious about this. I said I went to your rate my professor. Which one of like the best compliments somebody put to just show like it's not an act with you? They were just like, you might get a lot of homework, but this guy's super enthusiastic about what he teaches. Like
Yeah.
most of people's like, this guy's passionate. Like, this guy, like, you're gonna have a lot of fun because he's going to tell you like everything he knows about what he's teaching. So I do think that's really cool. But I'm curious how you feel about this. Is it ethical? Because I've had multiple teachers do this in my undergraduate to
Okay.
be like, hey, for extra credit, you should write me a good rate my professor review.
No, it's not ethical. I hate to put my fellow colleagues on blast, but no, that is not ethical. That is no. That's you go to the dean and you tell them. I mean, I'm not saying go to the dean, but that is not cool. No.
Multiple teachers in my undergrad. This was, to be fair, this was like my community college, so maybe they were just,
Okay.
just who cares,
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Don't. I mean, that's it's tough. That's a tough job, but yeah, no, that is not proper.
that's
The same
super
way
funny.
you can't pay people to leave you nice comments on your YouTube, ethically. Yeah.
I guess that would be like that's like a form of payment, Like I guess
Yeah.
instead of doing the money, you're doing
No,
it with
that's
yeah. That's a good point.
not good. No way.
Well, not even because I know you're passionate about French, and that is something that you really you talk about it sometimes in videos. You talk, that's something you teach. That's your job. But like, are
Yeah.
you passionate about teaching? Not even just teaching French, but just being a teacher, being a professor. Is that something that you have a strong passion for? I would imagine you've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, it's so like I grew up just kind of a loser, like in high school. Like I didn't do well in school. I spent most of my time like playing Mortal Kombat 2 and then playing Mortal Kombat 3. Like that was all I did. Like I got C's in all my classes, D's in some of them. I was in remedial science. Like I just didn't care. Like I just kind of thought I was dumb. That was basically just my life. And then I got to college and I realized I could choose what I learned about. And then that's where that enthusiasm came from, because all the time I was being stupid, like I was also like learning, and like I was like trying to figure, I tried to trace the history of, cold chillin' records and figure out who was there and what is the Queen school of rapping versus the Bronx school of rapping. Like I was doing that in high school, but it wasn't academic. So like I never had that sense of a calling, like this is what I'm meant to do, up until I taught for my first time. And I taught this class in grad school. I was like, oh, okay, this is what I was put on planet Earth to do, is to get information, figure out a way to transmit it that's enjoyable and effective, and then do that. And really, YouTube is just an extension of that, because it's the same basic idea. Like, let's put this forward. And then, my dad was a minister before I was born, but he was a minister, so like there is kind of an evangelical bent to how I feel about like communicating. Like I feel it's really special to teach. It's a really special thing to get to share that information with people. So yeah, it really is what I love to do, and I love studying it. And the more I work, the less I get to teach, because I keep doing all this administrative stuff, because that's sort of where the more secure stuff is. But yeah, it is absolutely what I love. That's why I'm happy I decided to brand myself as Professor Skye, because
Yeah.
being a professor is my favorite thing.
One of my favorite classes that I took in college was my sociology class, and I remember my teacher saying that we were talking about like the different institutions in America, and we started talking about church, and we were saying how church brings it promotes solidarity, it promotes it promotes a group of people coming together for a bigger cause, obviously God. And
Right.
I do feel like the way that you talk about things, it is a much more solid solidarity type of approach. Literally saying, "Hey, I really only want to talk about music in a positive light." So you're
Yeah.
bringing all of those fans in your comment section. Your comment section is like the church of whoever that rapper or rock
Yeah.
star, pop singer, whoever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yep.
the congregation of freaking Chapel Rome. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like they're all in your
Well,
comment section.
you got the same thing. I mean, that Clairo review, I was like, yes, this is the. I mean, I like that album, but you made me just want to jump off my couch and just scream, Clairo is the best. Like you got. That's part of the reason why I like your style so much, because like, what's the point of like being cool all the time? Like it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean, it's cool. It's cool that some people are cool all the time, but that kind of enthusiasm and passion, that's I don't know. It's great.
I appreciate you wasting your time and watching that video. I don't know why you
What are you
did
talking
that,
about? That
but
was
I
awesome.
appreciate that. I do appreciate that. That's funny to think that there's like a professor watching my. I don't know. It's just funny. That's like when you're making videos, you don't know who's going to see it. You know. So
That's right.
because I'm pretty sure you'll find out somebody that watch your videos. You're like, why is this person watching this? This is
All
insane
the
that this
time.
person. You know. So the fact that I have a professor that's been doing it for how long you been doing it for?
6 years.
You've been doing it for 6 years, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna waste some of my time doing some real life stuff. Go watch a guy in a pink room. Shout out to you. I appreciate that a lot, man. But yeah, no, that's so. It's like you bringing up your dad doing ministry work is interesting because I do feel like you promote solidarity the same way a ministry at least should promote solidarity
Yeah.
in their line of work. Do you realize that about that, or is that just more of a like a not a self conscious but a subconscious thing?
Yeah. I mean, so like because like what I represent, like just in my person, just in my family history, in all my life experiences and my ancestors' life experiences, like so much institutional power has been placed just in me. Just the second I was like, wah, wah, like I was born, all that power was put in, like into me. Just even acknowledging that, like I'm not apologizing for it. You just acknowledge it. Just like this happened, and then you acknowledge it. Like I find that is a way that has really helped. I hope helped people to sort of move towards some more solidarity because people shouldn't like. It's just this is the way history worked, and then this is the way our society works, and then we arrived at this point, and like we can congregate and we can celebrate whether it's Claro or it's Denzel Curry or whatever. It's like we can all be together and celebrate human excellence, and as long as we acknowledge that like human excellence comes from all different places, and Claro's life experience is probably different than Denzel Curry's, and how does that reflect in the music? It's yeah. So it is. There is a degree to which I have a semi evangelical spirit to my reviews, which might seem funny because I'm just some dude on YouTube, but you did identify it.
No, I do think I'm just fascinated by the way that you can make, these intellectual arguments or points, and they don't feel, like I said, like pretentious. Because I do feel like a lot of people, like you ever meet somebody who's so smart, but it's like they have a hard time communicating without sounding pretentious or just not like,
Yeah.
like for example, I remember Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think like there was like a school shooting or a mass shooting or something,
Okay.
and like one of his first like tweets about it was just like, how can I put this? Like in his head, he was like, "Hey, this will make people feel better." But how it came out was just like terrible. It was just I forget the tweet, but it was just like, uh, let's say 10 people died. The way he tweeted
Right.
was about it was just like, hey, one person dies like every 5 minutes. So if you do the math, it was like that, and it's like so it's really not that crazy. And I don't think he meant it like it was going to be a bad tweet, but it was just like some people lack like social awareness. They could be the smartest person on earth. You can have
Yeah.
50 degrees, but it's like talking to this person. It's like this person doesn't have like but you have that. So I do want to shout you out for that because not a lot of people who have degrees and teach or whatever, like you talk to them and it's like, man, you're not that smart, So I'm pretty sure you've spoken to other professors, other people with doctorates, and you felt like, how in the hell did you get these? Like so, but you come
Yeah.
across as somebody who's socially aware.
Yeah. It's a lot of it is like, and this happens a lot, especially like when you study hip hop or rap kind of at academic levels. It's like, I'm not about that life, but I definitely grew up loving this music. There's no part of me that is like, this is interesting. What are these fellows doing? It's like I grew up singing Boys in the Hood line for line, and didn't matter if I was in suburban Boston, like that was my absolute truth. And there's a lot of academics where they come to it and they it's not that like I'm authentically hip hop, but I am an authentic hip hop fan. And that makes a huge difference with whatever you're talking about. So like, yeah, I mean, I've been at conferences where people talk about rap and hip hop, and it's like they're so far out of it, and they don't care at all. And like they've only heard like 10 rap albums in their entire life, but they have a pretty good publication record, and everyone's sitting there and they're kind of clapping. And I mean, I have to preserve my my standing in the profession, but I want to just like flip over the tables and just say like, this person's a fraud. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. So, yeah, no, that's it's definitely it, and that's one of my favorite things. Where sometimes when I'm talking to people about this, like they'll just go, "Oh, so you're really into this," and I'm like, "Yeah." Like I'll have discussions, and they'll just kind of suspect that I'm like, I'm a French professor, and no one wants to learn French. I'll just take something that people do care about. You know, there's a certain point where like, "Oh, okay, I get it. You actually care." So
And then there's people who actually care, but they're not creative enough to have a YouTube channel and do different
yeah,
things or whatnot. So I love people who care, smart, and they have creative ideas. Like I love talking to people like that. Like I interviewed this guy named Dr. Scott Goldman, who was tasked, I guess, like he does this like for every sport. He does like a psychological test for like people coming out in like college. So
okay,
NFL, NBA, MLB teams can evaluate them, and like how just okay, so this person is good here, he's bad here, he does those type of things. And I interviewed him, interesting guy, and just somebody with a brain like him. He's like, hey man, what if next time, like in a few months, I do like a psychological kind of evaluation on you on camera and just kind of see like where you're at, and we can come back 3 months from now, and we did like this whole thing, and it was super interesting the way that he put everything together. So I do love talking to people that can have these grand ideas but can like put them together for a grand audience, because sometimes you can lose people, you could be too heady with your references, you
yeah.
could be, so is that something you ever think about, or do you just you word it
Oh
how you
yeah.
comes
I
out?
mean, I thought about it all the time. And like the first couple of years of the channel, I was like trying to have my videos be under 10 minutes. I was running away from the fact I was a professor. I was trying not to make complicated references. But then I learned like the more that I do, like the more that I bring in my academic approach, as long as I bring it in authentically and not just like grasping at straws, people really appreciate it because, people like one thing that YouTube will teach you, and this is what I learned from listening to sports radio as well, is that like, man, people want to be smart. People want to learn. People want to think. They want to have dialogue. They don't just want to watch drama. They don't want to, like, but you have to give them something. So I really learned to lean into that, and that's how, like my most recent Makami video, I did this whole discourse on Edward Glissant, who's this great Caribbean thinker and everything, and like I wouldn't have done that 5 years ago because I would have been like, no one wants to hear this. But that allowed me to bring in stuff I learned in grad school. I learned about that when I was, your age or your stage of development of learning, and then I'm able to share that. And now like 10,000 people have thought about this amazing album in relationship to this amazing thinker, and like it's poetry and it's philosophy and it's music, and it's like, man, this is way better than anything I've done, in a published journal.
No, you like it. We need more of that. Like when I see stuff like that, I almost get jealous to the point where I'm just like, why haven't I thought it to do this? Like this is like
You will
great
though. That's the
things,
thing. Like, I
So
mean, not to be pretentious, but I mean, you're the future of this, right? Because I mean, I've watched enough of your stuff to see the way that you put things together and the passion that you have of it. Like you're just like you're getting the information, you're getting the knowledge. There's no way I could have done. There's no way I could do what I'm doing now when I was in my first year of grad school. You know what I mean? Like, I would have been trying too hard. I would have been like too pretentious, or I would have been like, off the cuff. So, yeah, that's like my main message to young people is like being young sucks. Just like stay at it, do your best, don't hurt your brain too much, and just like middle age is really nice. It's actually much easier than being young.
when you okay, so you were talking about listening to a lot of sports talk radio. Were
Yeah.
you did you want to do that at one point in time in your life, or were you just really into listening to it?
No, so like that was this like it's this thing that so because I was from Boston and I moved to California, right? So I did my grad degree in Santa Barbara, and so like I really missed Boston, but like there isn't that much to miss from Boston. It's an okay place. It's not as great as everyone says, but like I did miss the sports, so I just started listening online to the sports station, and what I realized was that like the the human capacity for intelligence and greatness like cannot be crushed. So even these like dumbass, electricians from like Hingham will call up and make a point about the tackles on the Patriots in the wild card game, and it's like discourse at the highest level. So like it became almost abstract, especially with Deflategate. Like I would listen to the Deflategate coverage all day because it was like just absolute, uneducated people talking about the most useless things, applying all human greatness, all their faculties to try to define how many PSIs were in the football or weren't in the football. So yes, I think that's like that ended up being sort of one of my spiritual guidelines because then I realized that's what art is. Like that's why I feel comfortable studying art made by people who don't have my lived experience because like the human ability to create I believe is equal.
Yeah.
But like you don't have equal access to what you create. So some people don't have access to or haven't had access to certain areas of creation and excellence, so they create excellence over here. And then I had access to this excellence. So like it's I'm obviously very passionate about it.
Well, no, I do think like even sports talk radio, something about sports talk radio is also like a sense of like community and solidarity
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like some of these people feel like they know the talk host so much that they probably wouldn't call in to talk to a certain other person, but it's like, man, this is my friend, you know. So that's where you
Yeah.
get the plumber from Holyoke, Massachusetts, calling in, say like, yeah, I don't think the psi and the balls were deflated at all, you know. There was not too many, not too less psi. So yes, you do get those type of people because it feels like you. I would say this to my friend. I wouldn't say this to a stranger because I really don't know what I'm talking about. But it's something about that solidarity, and I feel like a lot of that probably like subconsciously was put on you to the point where
Yeah.
you have like made this community the same way that you have like a talk show host or you have a preacher in his church. So that is like a special bond to have with your supporters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a neat way to think about it. I mean, I've never thought about being a sports talk guy, but I've been pretty sure that I would be good at it.
If you had to talk about if you were confident in let's say 10 years ago to do one
Right.
sport uh, for sports talk, what would you do?
Yeah, probably the Red Sox. Because I have the most I have like the most history with the Red Sox and all that. I think I would have been pretty good at it, but even then, I don't know. I mean, I do love sports, but it's way more fun talking about art, and
Mm.
that's I mean, because when I was in undergrad, I was an art history major and a French major, and that's really just like whatever it was I learned doing art history. That's just what I do when I talk about movies, when I talk about music. It's I'm a little bit more interested in like human creation than human performance. If that makes sense.
It's funny because I joke with him all the time. My only white friend, who I grew up with, and met him at an art school,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody had a different art. I was like in music. He was in visual arts, and I always joke with him that he is the most pretentious person of all time, and and I feel like growing up talking to him, I always thought like, man, art people are just pretentious pricks or whatnot, which I learned wasn't true, but also I have to show you him. He's incredibly like talented and brilliant. He
Yeah.
he did a shoe for Converse. Like Tyler the Creator reached out for him to like do
Cool.
this series that he was doing where he was picking like different cool artists, and he picked him to like design a shoe. Spencer McMullen, shout out to him. I'll show you some of his
Wow.
art. He's a very very talented guy. But yeah, art is.
If you can call someone pretentious and they still talk to you, it means they're not too pretentious.
Oh
Just
yeah,
so you
for
know,
sure, for sure.
that's the
He
litmus test. You call someone pretentious and they get mad, that's a sign there's too much.
No, yeah, we're at the point where he'll say something, and before he says it, he's like, "I know you're gonna call him pretentious for this, but like he's one of the type of people that's like the smallest thing will turn him off. Like I'm like, hey, did you hear the new album? And he's like, nah, I ain't listen to it. His name starts with the letter Y. I don't listen to people today who starts with letter Y. But yeah, I'm super duper fascinated by art. I can't say that I'm super art literate, but I've been around it and I saw a lot of it and it's interesting. I'm subscribed to this one guy on YouTube. I don't know if you watch him at all, but his name is The Canvas.
No.
So I've been following this guy. I found him on accident because I was looking. I think what's the paint? It's the painting with the guy dressed up in like a Joker suit and he's like in all red. He's like sitting in a chair and he looks depressed. Hold on. Let me see. Guy. It's like a very famous painting.
Francis Bacon?
Uh, guy in Joker suit painting. red. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I just found it yesterday. Here it is right here. Paint with Joker, red suit. This right here. Actually, I lied. It didn't come up. I'll find it. But the point is, he talks about a lot of art history in a very and he ties a lot of like psychology with it, and it's super duper interesting. I don't know if you watch any art YouTubers that you would love to put us on, but he's the
Yeah.
Canvas is really good.
Well, I mean, the thing I would say, and this is what I tell all my students, like this is my number one lesson to all students, is that like I don't know anything about science. I don't know why trees look the way they do. I don't know why molecules are molecules, whatever. But all human creation can be studied the same way. So, like, you're good at listening to music. It's literally the same thing as art because every single stroke on a canvas or every single decision is a decision. Even if it looks like it's random, that randomness was the decision. So all you have to do is just look at any painting and you can have that same level of analysis that you have when you listen, like, well, why did they put the bass on the 1 and the 3 as opposed to the 2 and the 4 on this song? Like, okay, so they're trying to create a little bit more of like a pressed, like that kind of simple decision. Like, and that's art history, that's film, that's architecture, that's design. That's just like once you unlock that, and that's what I learned in art history, then like all analysis is just totally open. And then the rest of it's just details. So then you get like, oh, he was born in
Yeah,
1743 and he was born here and he was part of this movement. Like that stuff's cool. But just that first thing, like that's totally open to you, like always. It's open to everybody always. But we get up in our head and we think, I can't talk about that because I don't know when he was born.
painting by the way.
Oh, cool.
Ever seen
Yeah.
this before?
I mean, I think I've seen it, but I haven't studied it in any way.
So yeah, I was just curious about it, and like I found this guy, and he had like 500 subscribers, but he was like the only person who made a YouTube video about it. He's like 500,000 subscribers now. Like 3 years
Oh,
later,
that's
he's
awesome.
he's going crazy. So I would definitely recommend the Canvas just for interesting anybody interested in like art history.
Yeah.
Another person on Twitter, this guy kills it. His name is like Art but Sports. This guy is a
Okay.
psychopath. I don't know how he does it. He will take any sports image, like literally, it'll happen like a LeBron will be doing a dunk, literally
Okay.
in 5 minutes. Somebody will be like, "Hey, anything for this?" He will find a picture, an art painting from like 1542, because he just has a vast art history knowledge, or vast knowledge of art history, and he would find a painting that looks just like the LeBron dunk, and it's like, how do you know how
Wow.
do you know that? And that guy is a psychopath because I don't know how he has. I couldn't do that with music. Like he is crazy. So art but makes it sport. That guy is nuts. Let me see if I can find a crazy one like this right here. Like he's like he'll find it in like 5 minutes. And it's like, how did you?
That's funny.
He's crazy. But do you have do because I think it's interesting. I was watching an interview with him. He was like, how do you find these things so quick? He was like, well, I know what. I'll see a picture and I'll be like, I this looks like a this painting. So he would just look for. I know they have styles in his painting, and he would just da 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 do a quick research. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you feel like you have like just a supreme vast knowledge about where you can just dig down in the catalog and just pull something crazy out? Is that French? Would you say?
Yeah. I mean, so like because I spent so much time studying French literature, and French literature is a couple centuries, 6, 7 centuries old, and I've read a lot of it, and a lot of human experience was told through that, because that's all that literature is. So, yeah, I wouldn't say there's like one area, but I don't know if it's because I'm ADD or something. I don't know what it is, but like the analogy connectors in my brain, like if I had any sort of like natural skill, I think it's a sort of weird analogy ability to sort of see this is like that as that is like this. So really, it's just like, and I don't do any contact sports. I don't do any drugs. So like, I keep my brain in pretty good condition. So like, I feel like that's the main thing. So I spent a lot of time studying cinema, and like all that information is in my head. And like, I spent a long time studying sports, and that's all in my head. So it's more like I sort of collect all these things and then kind of keep them. And there's sort of like almost like a little like library in my head. And I'm every once in a while I'll be like, huh, this is sort of making me think about it. And then I sort of like in my head, I like pull out the little book and look into it. But That's maybe a little fanciful of an image, but
Super duper interesting. As you answer this question, I'm gonna run to get something because I do want
okay.
to show it to you. It's sitting right across from me. You're talking about not dumbing down your videos, but just not being as expansive as you could be at the very beginning.
Hmm.
And now you'll make a reference that is maybe only one person on Earth will get that's gonna
Yeah.
watch that video. What's a rap moment for you where you're listening to a song and you kind of had like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he's pointing at TV like, whoa, like where you're like, I cannot believe that was said in a song. Like, I cannot believe that reference was made in a song.
Okay. What reference shocked me the most? Okay. Jeez. Okay. I'll have to think about that.
I'm going to run and go get this while you think about it.
Okay. Man, that's a tough question. What reference shocked me the most? Oh my god. I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna be able to have an answer for this. I don't know if he's gonna edit this. I don't know. It's a really good question. I don't know if I have an answer, Eric. That's a really because like it happens a lot. Often it'll be the problem. My problem is that it would most likely be somebody who's had something closer to my life experience. So like I'm pretty sure The Alchemist made some kind of like goofy ass I grew up in the 80s reference on that last EP. I'm trying to remember what it was, but there was some like pop culture reference where I'm like, yeah, I get this and he gets this, but this is yeah. So, but I can't think of anything specific. I'm sorry to let down. I'd have to like dig in my notes a little bit.
No, you're fine. That's one of my favorite things about hip hop, actually, because I feel like people always make the same sports references. You're going to hear the Michael Jordan bar, or
Yeah,
LeBron, or Tom Brady. Some of my favorite ones is when people like reference like an obscure sports player, and it's like
yeah,
that's like we should do that more. You know, like
absolutely.
I'm a wrestling fan, so people reference the same wrestler. So when somebody references a different wrestler that's not like Hulk Hogan or like
Yeah,
Ric Flair, it's like whoa, that
yeah.
was a
No,
deep cut.
like seriously, the amount that I have to think about wrestling by loving rap music, it's like wrestling and anime. It's like I had no idea. I mean, fortunately, I was a kid of the '80s, so like I grew up with the WrestleMania album and stuff, and like I loved Andre the Giant and all that stuff. So like I have some experience with it, and I remember Coco Beware's first appearance, and like basically that. But like it is wild how much you have to know about wrestling to follow. Like underground, mainstream, doesn't matter what it is, you really have to know it.
Well, I was gonna say you listen to West Side Gun, so you have to hear a lot about
Yeah.
wrestling.
I feel like he's now more of a wrestling promoter than he is a musician.
Man, that guy's at like every event. Like he's really dedicated to it. He's like he's
Yeah.
like really into it. But yeah, no, I love those references of just wow, I can't believe this person said that in a song. I can't think of anything off the top of my head either. So I'm right
Okay.
there with you. But no, that's like one of my favorite things about rap. But what I had to go and get really quickly
Yeah.
that I wanted to talk about is I don't know, maybe this was the Matt Villain video, which was the first ever video that I saw by you.
Mhm.
Um, you're talking about Citizen Kane
Yeah.
and kind of comparing it to that or whatnot, and just you being into film, and I mean you're just really interesting because I feel like you approach things from almost like you're like an anthropologist almost,
Hmm.
very culture standpoint, and I my minor for like a few semesters was film.
Uh-huh.
Had to change it because if I kept it, I would have graduated way later just by the way the classes were set up. But
Yeah.
I did want my minor to be film. Had to change it. With that being said, I really do like film as well. I'm not into it as I should be, so I'm always
Right.
trying to get like more knowledgeable. I got this book from the library. It's called "1,001 Movies That You Should
Oh,
See,"
awesome.
and I try to like look at a movie in here every day or whatnot. So just from your movie knowledge, what are movies that you feel like people should see if they have not seen?
Well, I mean, you said Citizen Kane, and that's definitely a super good one in terms of like understanding the history of cinema, but also just like really awesome. So like it's hard because there's like the classics, and then there's like the movies that I wish people had seen. Um, like if you've never seen Dead Presidents by the Hughes brothers, like that's one of my favorite movies, and it's not a hip hop movie. It takes place in the '70s, but it's considered like hood cinema. But
Yeah.
it's like that. It's like so good, and so few people have seen it. So like I get super excited about that, or a movie like House Guest with Phil Hartman and Sinbad. It's like this goofy ass comedy, and it's not a great movie, but like usually I try to spend my energy sending people to like things where they're like, did the professor just say to watch House Guest with Sinbad and Phil Hartman? Um, yeah, but I mean, I think there's a documentary called The Sorrow and the Pity, which is maybe one of the most moving pieces of movies that have ever been made. It's all about the occupation of France by the Nazis, and it just takes one little town and it goes through the entire history of that town during the occupation, and it like reveals the truth that they were for the most part collaborating and they weren't really resisting, and it's this like amazingly human story about how do you survive in very difficult times. As far as like sort of snootier picks, I'd pick that one. I
Just wrote that down, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, my favorite movies in general are either horror movies or comedies, because like I find comedies and horror most interesting because they reflect most of what's happening right now. So, um, so if you've never seen Spinal Tap, that's one of my favorites. That's like the first mockumentary. Um, I'd say that's a super good one. Yeah, that's lot of questions.
No, what is that movie? I just watched a really good, I guess like horror flick, and I don't know if you know, but I don't remember the name of it, but it was like a horror movie revolving around a late night show.
Oh no, huh?
I'll find it while I'm talking or while we're talking.
Yeah,
But no, I always told myself that if I felt like historians it was easy to make like money as a historian, I probably would have like majored in history. I love history,
yeah,
so that's why the Star and the Pity that kind of caught my eye because I
yeah.
do love watching I'm a documentary guy. I love a good documentary. So
Well,
that sounds interesting.
I want to turn the tables on you.
Yeah.
So I was watching, I think it was your Denzel Curry video, and you recommended this. It was never about a hot dog and a Coke. And this book, I would like to recommend it. This gets the double recommendation. This is a fucking masterpiece. This is so well written. It's a first-person tale of what happened in Jacksonville, a non-deadly race riot that, and like the like this, we were talking about like how do I make connections? There's a whole chapter in here about basically how Martin Luther King overstepped and was like, I can help you. It's too bad that you were too violent. And the guy who's writing this is like, Martin Luther King didn't know what the hell he's talking about. We weren't being violent. He was reading the newspaper. So like that little story right there, I know that's going to be in a video of mine in the next 10 years because it's like Martin Luther King, the great hero, the saint, is like misreading the news and preaching to people. Anyways, so like, I don't know. So I wanted to thank you because you also do that thing of where you send people to, and like, I feel like by reading this, I feel like I understand American history better. I feel like I understand Florida better. You know what I mean? So anyways, I wanted to thank you for recommending that because it's a self-published book. I
Yeah.
never would have found it.
The way you
But
pulled that out was so smooth. The way I was not. I thought you were going to ask me a question like, so, like, what do you study in school or something? The way you just pulled that out, you're just, well, this right here. I was not expecting that. I have to give you hand claps. So that was a really good one,
well,
man.
I mean, it was a really good recommendation, and it's like it's a good example of like if YouTube existed, Rodney L. Hurst Sr. would hopefully have a YouTube channel and he'd be able to get this information out there because this is like it's real, it's smart, it's lived, it's explained, and it's self-published. So yeah,
That's
everyone should go get it.
That's crazy. I thought that I only brought that up one time, and because I interviewed No Name, and she didn't
That
know
was it
about
was
it.
no name.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
that
I was
was
about to
that
say I didn't know.
interview.
I told that to Denzel, but yeah, that makes sense that I told that to No Name.
Yeah,
Because I know she didn't know about that, and I just assume anybody not from Jacksonville probably doesn't know that story.
yeah,
Um,
no idea.
no, but yeah, that's super interesting. I've been going to the library a lot because I was just like, man, I went there recently and I was like, this is a cool ass place. There's a lot of books here, a lot of knowledge here, and I just got this other book about Florida. I mean, about Jacksonville, just telling the Jacksonville history, and Jacksonville history is just so unique from all of Florida because even around that time when desegregation was happening, Florida kind of took it well and everybody was kind of integrating except Jacksonville. Jacksonville was the only city, it was the last city in Florida to integrate because the mayor, everybody was just like, no, we're not integrating. And I always think it's funny because the first person that I heard not defend it but say good things about segregation was my teacher, my high school teacher.
Jesus.
African American studies teacher. And he's a
Okay.
black guy, and that blew my. I'm like, good things about the, because he was one of those guys that had no filter. Probably shouldn't have been teaching high school just because of how unfiltered he was, but I loved him for that. I remember he said he was talking about segregation. He was like I remember when we desegregated. He kind of had a high pitched voice. He said I ain't want to be around them white kids. And he broke it down in a way that I never thought about. He was essentially just saying, I went to a black school, all black kids, all black teachers. Then I went to a school with a bunch of white teachers who didn't care if I learned it or not, who didn't have my best
Yeah.
interests. I was around white kids who didn't want to help me find any, like, they were just like, get out of my face. So he went from a place where he felt loved and taken care of, like he had like a second mom in school, to now the teacher is just like, do it on your own, you know. So I
Yeah.
thought that was like really interesting perspective. And he just talked about how like Jacksonville had a lot of rich black like stores, and I think we had a bus or whatnot, like an all black bus. When it got integrated, all the black people stopped populating those stores and those buses, and they just kind of went out of business. So it was like less black businesses because of everybody started populating Walmart and McDonald's, and you know. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found that it's super duper interesting perspective from him. So
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
that's that may be a shocking lesson, but that's critical thinking at its best because there's the thing and then there's the other angle of the thing, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. It must have been really really harsh being around a bunch of people who don't want to be around you, like being forced to be away from people, and then being that's yeah
Super duper interesting. So shout out to you for putting that book up. That got
yeah
me right there. That yeah, you
yeah.
got me
Well,
with
I,
that.
I I really like the No Name interview too because I didn't. And that's the thing what I like about. I mean, you interview a lot of people. A lot of people don't get interviewed. A lot of people do get interviewed. But your style is so good that you get a lot out of people. That seems to be more natural and just kind of like easy. And so that helped me because I really like that No Name project. But I also the way she presents her personality is a little hard to. It's a little bit like cold or something. So it was kind of nice seeing her with you because it helped me to sort of have a more complete picture of her as a person.
That was so interesting because when I interviewed her, I she doesn't have a lot of interviews. Like you said, you go on her YouTube, she has like a few interviews out there. And doing that interview, it really showed me like, man, this is like a very sweet, nice girl. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
it was not what a lot of people expected. Like, I know a lot of people were like, man, like I thought she was just gonna be like, you know, just mean and asshole with dick to you. But
Yeah.
like, no, she reached out to do the interview with me. Like she's the sweetest girl of all time. So yeah, shout out to No Name. I maybe another interview soon. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But no,
Awesome.
yeah, shout out to No Name though. But yeah, you with culture and movies and things that don't have anything to do with music, and the way that you incorporate that into, like you said, you talked about thinkers of their time in the Caribbean thing. What was his name?
Edward Glissant. G
Edward.
L I S S A N T.
So we had Edward
And
Lisson. And what are you gonna
yeah.
say?
Oh, nothing. I was just saying his name.
Yeah, Edward Lisson and the Makami thing. So I, like I said, I just think the fact that the way that you tie references, and like I said, you just think in a very anthropologist type way, and I took an anthropology class and it just kind of blew my mind. And I feel like the way that you approach things is just like that. So I do want to just like thank you for doing that, because as a person who thinks in a similar way, I do appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's really fun because you get to make these connections and then you get to share them. And that's the thing is that like you shared this book with me, and that really meant a lot for my life. Like you really enriched my life. You didn't write the book. You just said, "Hey, here's this cool thing," and then I found it. And like that's the kinds of connections that you can make, and why YouTube can be more than just. Oh my God! Can you believe that this person called this other person a slut?
Salacious, which is interesting. That I love the fact that you can have 100,000 subscribers without a salacious headline. You know, you don't.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean, of course, it was only because of Kendrick and Drake that I got 100,000 subscribers, anyways.
did
So it
did
was only.
did it ramp up after the Kendrick and Drake thing a
Oh
lot?
yeah, yeah. I got like 40,000 subscribers off of that,
Okay.
and it was mainly because of the video where I was just trashing on Drake for the Hard Part 6. So like, you can't win, YouTube's going to YouTube. and,
Um.
and just so you know, I
Yeah.
probably don't have a ton more time.
Yeah.
Um, just so you know, because I'll have to go and take care of some kids soon.
No, no, you're fine. Late Night with the Devil. was, by the way, the horror movie with
Oh,
it's
great.
like surrounding around like a late night show. So
That sounds good.
very very interesting show. But no, yes, a few things that I want to get to before we get out of here. Somebody that I feel like you would listen to, but I don't know if you do. Death Grips.
So, okay, this is what happened. I got an interview with Fantano like 3 years ago. And on that interview, I talked about why do people care about Death Grips because he likes them so much. So I said, when he releases that video, I will do a Death Grips analysis. For whatever reason, he's never released that video. So I've been in a holding pattern this close to doing a Death Grips review, but I haven't done it. I know they're important. I know they influence so much of the things that I review, but I'm waiting for the Professor Skye cut to come out to talk about it.
That's super duper funny. So yeah, I definitely cannot wait for that. I don't really listen to Death Grips, but I know you like noisy music and Yeezus, and I feel like if you
Yeah.
really like Yeezus, then you would probably like Death Grips. But no, I do not want to take up too much of your time.
Well,
Um,
I truly
I do
I enjoy
appreciate
this
you.
a lot, and
Yeah.
I'm totally happy for a round two sometime. It's just with the babies. Like I'm like looking through the window right now, and I like literally see my wife, and she's like, "Gotta go to the doctor."
No, I've been seeing you like look somewhere. I'm like he must has to
Yeah,
go somewhere. So I
yeah,
do appreciate that.
yeah. But no, I mean like seriously, this is it's a lot. I mean, I feel like we've barely even started talking about music. So
No,
you know,
you're fine. For everybody watching right now, I appreciate you guys. We have to let go, Professor, be Father of the Year. Until next time, I say what I mean. I mean what I say. Haters gonna hate, players gonna play, and you guys holler at your boy.